Hi and welcome back to my channel. As usual, spoiler alert, and this week is going to be so spoiler filled that if you haven't seen the text I'm going to talk about, just stop now. Just don't even bother, but go and watch the film. I also would like this week to give you a small content warning. I'm going to use some clips from horror films, so if you are not up for that, then this might not be for you. Today I'm going to talk about Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien, which is one of my favourite films and possibly, I think, could be a contender for the greatest film ever made. I'll fight you. I will. So the reason that I'm prompted to do this week is because this week we lost a third member of the crew of the Nostromo. In 2017, we lost our first member, John Hurt, and then very shortly afterwards, Harry Dean Stanton. And this Friday just passed, Ian Holm died as well. So I really felt like this was the right moment to pay a small tribute to this film and particularly to Ian Holm's part in the film. As I said, this is one of my favourite films, and I could make at least 3 videos right now off the cuff to sort of demonstrate why I love it so much and why it is so brilliant, but I have narrowed it down to one theme. Today I would like to read the film through genre. Genre fiction has only very recently become considered truly worthy of academic study because it sort of falls into what you might call a lowbrow pop culture area of arts. For a long time it wasn't sort of in the canon. So films like Alien, texts that fall into genre fiction just have not been given the attention they deserve until quite recently. But it's actually really important to look at because pop culture, including genre fiction, is most of what we consume sort of on a daily basis. Most of the TV shows you watch will fall into some genre. And genre shouldn't be denigrated, it shouldn't be considered less just because it's more accessible. If anything, it should be studied more because it's more accessible. Alien is a mixture of 2 genres. It is a slasher film and it's also science fiction. And so today I want to demonstrate that the combination of these 2 sort of displays 2 diametrically opposed aspects of the human being, but 2 essential aspects of the human being. So let's start by looking at slasher films. Slashers are generally considered to be a narrative in which a group of people is picked off one by an external threat. So these films are really a fight for survival. They are about physical bodies pushed to their extremes, pushed to their limits. They are about blood, they're about bodily intrusion, they're about injury, harm, sometimes gore, always blood. They're also about exertion. They're about bodies running and hiding and fighting and sort of clawing onto that last bit of life. So they are films that elicit fear and adrenaline, and they speak to what is instinctual in human beings, this fight for survival. Science fiction does precisely the opposite. Science fiction is about the big questions. It is about time and space and love, faith, existence. It is about outer space, out there, away from our planet. And it is also about inner space, about what happens inside human beings and what lives in us. Science fiction tends to elicit awe and introspection. I cry a lot when I watch science fiction. And it's really a deep, complex understanding of the human being. In order to do this reading of Alien, I've chosen 2 clips, one which I think really displays the slasher elements of Alien and one which I think really displays the science fiction elements of Alien. So I would like to close read them with you. So we're going to start with our slasher clip and we're going to start with the death of Captain Dallas.
Check that out, Lambert. You may be getting interference.
Dallas, are you sure there is no sign of it? I mean, it is there. It's got to be around there.
Dallas?
All right. Am I clear, Lambert? I want to get the hell out of here.
Oh, God, it's moving right towards you.
I think the first thing that's really important to mention here is, of course, that Dallas is in the dark. He is surrounded by shadow, and which is basically the unknown, which is automatically scary and unnerving for the audience and for him. He can really only see when he uses the flamethrower, and it briefly illuminates his surroundings, and I think that intermittent visibility also heightens the tension. The fact that he could light that up at any moment and see something makes us very tense about those moments when he does sort of let that burst of flame come out. He also talks to himself. He's sort of mustering courage. He's trying to reassure himself. He's like, come on, let's go. Which again makes us as an audience feel like we're with him, we're feeling the tension, we want him to get out, we kind of know that he's not going to because of the kind of film we're watching. And he does actually say, I want to get the hell out of here. So we have this real desire suddenly to move. And when he does start to move, he can't run, so we don't have that kind of like running physical exertion, but he climbs and he gets short-breathed, and you can feel the desperation in him. It's really a scene where that kind of like intense need to survive is just growing and growing and growing. Meanwhile, all of what is happening to Dallas in the vents is heightened for us by his crewmates, because his crewmates are watching him. They are also in darkness, so we don't get any sort of reprieve when we're looking at them. They just have the light from the screens that they're looking at, so they're very like spookily lit as well. And of course they're focusing on screens and they're listening to Dallas. They're like watching him and listening to him in exactly the way that we as an audience are. And so their fear reflects ours. And again, the tension is sort of heightened by the fact that we are watching them watching Dallas, and we are watching Dallas, and everybody wants him to get out alive, but sort of doesn't believe that he will. Of course, the music also reflects and creates that rising tension. You can feel it like swelling, and it gets more and more chaotic and like intense the longer the scene goes on. And then finally we get this jump scare. He uses the flamethrower, he lights up the alien, and we know what happens next. This scene doesn't have the blood and the gore that is so prominent in slasher films, although that element does exist in other parts of the film. But I think this scene still demonstrates what I'm discussing. It's these human beings at their limits, in a state of terror, fighting for survival. So for comparison, let's take a scene that really stares down the barrel of science fiction. And here is where I would like to turn to our Ian Holm playing Ash.
Yes, I can hear you.
What was your special order?
You read it. I thought it was clear.
What was it?
Bring back life form. Priority 1. All other priorities rescinded.
In a damn company. What about our lives, you son of a bitch?
I repeat, all other priorities are rescinded.
How do we kill it, Ash? There's gotta be a way of killing it. How? How do we do it?
You can't.
That's bullshit.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility.
You admire it.
I admire its purity. A survivor. Unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality.
Look, I've heard enough of this, and I'm asking you to pull the plug.
Last word.
What?
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
First of all, This scene is clearly and directly concerned with the question of what it is to be human. This experience of otherness, of meeting something other, makes the crew members and us as audience members more conscious of ourselves. We recognize what we are not. So if you have a story where someone meets a monster, it makes the character and the reader feel their humanity by comparison with the monster. And that is basically what is happening in this film. But there is, of course, also a dual meeting of otherness in this scene, because not only are they discussing the alien who is not present, but they are also talking to Ash, who has revealed himself to be other. I should say that otherness is also obviously present in slasher films. The predator, whoever that is, whether that's like Michael Myers or, Pinhead or whatever, is always other. So there is that element as well. But in this film here, Ash brings a kind of consciousness to the otherness, and I think that is more aligned to a sort of science fiction reading. So let's deal first with the alien. Ash describes it in the following ways. He says, "A perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. A survivor, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality." This automatically heightens our awareness of what it means to be human. First of all, because we have already experienced that the crew members are extremely vulnerable. They are mortal. 3 of their crew members are already dead, and they have experienced, up close and personal how dangerous this creature is and how vulnerable their bodies are. Secondly, because he talks about conscience and morality, which are innately human virtues. But of course, Ash, as a robot, is also other. He tells them his orders: bring back life form, priority 1, all other priorities rescinded. And when he describes the alien, Lambert says to him, "You admire it," and he answers, "I admire its purity." Minutes before this scene, the crewmates and us, as an audience, have believed Ash to be human. So the revelation that he is not human unveils an otherness much closer to home. He is also unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality, but until very recently, we thought he had all those things. So the sudden realization that this person, I'm going to call him a person, that they are speaking to, does not have human values or human emotions is extremely awakening. Because he has lived amongst them, his final words are particularly chilling. He says, "I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies." They do not have his sympathies because he is incapable of sympathy. These are empty words, therefore adding to this consciousness of what they, as human beings, do possess. What I'm really arguing here is that Alien is a film that displays the basest and the highest elements in human beings. I don't want to suggest that the instinctive base elements that we see in slasher are less important or less essential. They are just more instinctive. They don't engage thinking, they engage, gut feeling. So they have a different quality. Slashers depict the basest parts of human beings insofar as they have villains that are out to cause violence and chaos and harm, and they have heroes reduced to survival instincts. They are films that are about the physical over the intellectual. The body is what is important. Science fiction, on the other hand, depicts the highest part of human beings. Science fiction is about discovery, it is about meeting otherness and reflecting inwards. It is about understanding through an expanded picture of the universe what our place is as human beings. And that is totally about mind over body. It is about how we think and how we feel and what is happening inside us, and not about our physicality. Because we have these two elements in Alien, the film really represents human beings as a whole. It represents us as physical, mortal beings. but also as conscious, thinking individuals. That's it. Short and sweet argument for why Alien is the greatest film ever made. Thank you for watching. If you feel so inclined, please do share this video and get in touch, comment below, or follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Stella Otwell, and I'll be back next week with something else.